Week 6 matchup preview time, gentlemen. I know you've been waiting all day for it, so here we go. We're going to jump into our first matchup of the week. John's great team and candidate for worst team name in the league versus Valor Morgulis, who's not that much further ahead as far as team name goes. John is in first place in his rookie season with us and has really built kind of a juggernaut here. Ezekiel Elliott and DeMarco Murray look like the best running back tandem in the league. And now with Eric Decker out for the season, Brandon Marshall is going to be a target hog all year. However, you got to kind of question the wisdom of playing a defense against a starting player on your team. You guys all know I'm not a big fan of doing that. Because it really kind of caps your upside. If Brandon Marshall has 2 touchdowns, essentially 9 of those 12 points get wiped off the board because you're losing it off of your defense. So a 2-touchdown game amounts to 3 extra points for you. It's not a great situation. So you're really hoping for a ton of yardage against Patrick Peterson and Arizona, and that's just not smart. It's not going to work. So Cameron gets Cam Newton back in a very good matchup at New Orleans. I don't think I have to tell any of you how bad the Saints defense is. But again, Cameron making some kind of weird plays here. Starting 2 Atlanta Falcons at Seattle. Tevin Coleman's been solid. I mean, Matt Bryant, he's a kicker, for God's sake. You don't play a kicker in a bad matchup. I mean, what are we talking about here? He did well last week against Denver. I don't expect him to do anything at all this week. I don't expect Tevin Coleman to do anything at all either. But we'll see how it plays out. Howard and Fuller are definitely going to have huge weeks for Cam. My bold prediction of the week, though, is I'm going to go back to Coby Fleener because John still doesn't get it. If Willie Snead's in the lineup, Coby Fleener is not being used. He's just not. They use Willie Snead instead. Coby Fleener is going to score less than 5 fantasy points, as he has done in every single game that Willie Snead has been active so far this season. Look it up. That's a fact. So that's how that's going down. It's actually not that bold because it's happened every time. But, guess John doesn't get the message. Fleener is not a playable fantasy tight end. So next matchup, Steve versus Jason. Kneel before Zod, which is hands down the worst team name in the league. And I'm with her. Matt Forte continues his free fall. It looks like Steve probably going to put him in his lineup this week in a horrible matchup at Arizona. That's starting to turn more and more into the Bilal Powell show, and that's just what it is. I hope everybody takes a lesson from this when you're super greedy about a player and just, borderline retarded about a player's value like Steve was and is really when you talk about what he asks for Brandon Cooks. Come on. It's just you tend to get burned in those situations, and that's what's happening. Forte was a clear candidate for regression. It's happening faster than even I thought it was, and I hate Forte. I think they have Justin Tucker projected at 14 points. Yahoo is silly with their projections. Just to give you an idea, Justin Tucker has scored 12 points combined in the last 2 games, and he has eclipsed that 13.99 twice, 2 out of 5 games. So to project that kind of week is stupid, Yahoo. You guys need to fix your projections. They're silly, and they get worse every week. That being said, Tucker is a great kicker play, as always. He's a great kicker. On Jason's side, Drew Brees at home against the once good Panthers D. They are god-awful now. The Panthers D is horrible. They look awful. They look terrible. And they're right where they should be on Tony's bench, and that's where they will stay all season long because Tony won't realize until like week 13 that it's not last year. You got Benjamin playing at New Orleans is obviously a very plus matchup, but what scares me about this matchup for Jason is that he traded Derek Carr to Steve, and it's tough. You're facing a guy that you traded. He might have a big week. We'll see. I mean, that'd just be karma if you wound up losing because Derek Carr went off on you. My bold prediction of this matchup, though, is that I think Chris Ivory returns to form this week in an easy matchup with the Bears. I expect Chris Ivory to go out there and put up about 80 to 90 yards and get in the end zone twice. Huge game for Chris Ivory. He's projected at 4 points, which is silly. Davante Adams projected at 5 points. Where do they come up with this nonsense? He scored over 8 in 3 out of 4 of his games. Okay, so in any event, good bet for a touchdown, Davante Adams. Winner of this game is going to be Jason. I forgot to pick the winner of the last game. The winner of John and Cam is going to be Cam. There you go. So Cam, let's keep the streak alive, man. I've been right about you every week. I'm hoping you can take John down. Tony versus Tony. Princess the Cat versus the Cheesehead. So Tony Jr. is way over projected this week. Carson Palmer at 18 points. Let me check real quick. I don't think he's done 18 all year, has he? He's had one game where he scored that many points, 1 out of 4, and obviously he sat one game against the Niners that he probably would have. The Jets' defense does not scare me at all, but Carson Palmer is not the guy he used to be. Julio Jones at Seattle is going to have another really bad game. That's just what it is. I mean, you're not going to bench Julio Jones because, quite frankly, you don't have the guts to do it, Tony. But Julio's going to have an awful game being double covered by Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas all day long. Good luck. I think Marvin Jones Jr. has a big day. Shady and Bell, obviously, in great matchups. Another very good running back tandem that rivals that of Johns, Elliott, and Murray. My dad, on his side of the ball, the return of Jamal Charles. You've waited 6 weeks for this, and now you get to see your toy go out onto the field. For how many plays, though? I think that it's quite possible JC gets re-injured. I'm going to knock on wood for you. But JC might only be out there for 2 or 3 carries and go down again. That's just the nature of what he is. So my bold prediction for this week is that Cheeseburger Eddie outscores Le'Veon Bell. You heard me right. Even in a plus matchup against the Dolphins, I think that the Steelers are going to move the ball a lot through the air. I think they seem intent on making Sammy Coates some sort of superstar. And I think they seem like they want to get Ben Roethlisberger some sort of touchdown record this year. So I think Ben Roethlisberger, that Steelers offense, is going to be flying high all game long, and Bell is not going to be needed that much on the ground. So Eddie Lacy outscores Le'Veon Bell en route to Princess the Cat upsetting Cheesehead this week. It's a bold call, but that's my upset pick of the week, Princess the Cat over Cheesehead. Donkey Punch versus Suicide Squad. I mean, for the love of God, could Joe have gotten any easier of a draw this week? Chris, ravaged by injuries still. To boot, you got really bad matchups. And on top of that, he's got really bad players too. I expect Chris to score somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 70 points. That's just what it is. I'm sorry. Bad matchups with bad players don't score a lot of points. I know this because that's a constant theme with my team. So I'm going to go with Joe in this one. I think Big Ben, like I alluded to earlier, has a monster game. I think Willie Snead does really well against the Panthers. And I think Nuke Hopkins, even though he's going to be shadowed by Vontae Davis against the Colts, I really expect Nuke Hopkins to finally get it going and have a big day in this one. They're going to force feed him the ball. Huge day for Nuke Hopkins. My bold prediction, though, Phillip Rivers at home against the Broncos leads the Chargers to a win en route to throwing 3 touchdown passes tonight. Rivers is going to get into the end zone 3 times versus Denver. It's not going to be enough. Joe's going to win. So, but Rivers is going to have a night tonight. Now, our last matchup is, of course, my team, which is Closet Cheesehead versus Captain Caveman, which is you, Jared. So Jared's got a bad team, and he's going to keep losing. I think A.J. Green is way over projected at New England, a team that historically focuses on stopping your number one weapon. I think A.J. Green's going to have a really hard time. They're going to be doubling him all day long. They're not going to let A.J. Green beat them. And quite frankly, the Bengals don't have a second option to pull attention away from A.J. Green. Tom Brady to Gronk obviously worries me. And Demaryius Thomas is going to have a big night at San Diego tonight because their starting corner, Jason Barrett, their number 1 is out. Their number 2 is out. So I expect the Broncos to be able to move the ball with extreme efficiency. But C.J. Anderson's going to steal the touchdowns. I have to bring this up. So last week was the first week that Stephen Gostkowski outscored the kicker for Jared's opponent. And what does Jared do to reward him? He drops Stephen Gostkowski. So I was thinking to myself, is there any way after Jared dropped him, is there any way in the world that Gostkowski doesn't just go off this week? The answer is no. Gostkowski is going to put up 15 to 20 points. He might score a touchdown because you have angered the fantasy gods, Jared, and we don't do that. My bold prediction for this game is not about Gostkowski, though. This is the first matchup that my bold prediction, which involving Jared's team, did not involve Gostkowski. I'm going to go really bold, and I'm going to say that Julius Thomas outscores Rob Gronkowski this week. And that's, I think Gronk's going to get more yards, but I think JT gets into the end zone twice. It's going to happen. So you heard it here first. I get the W, get back to 500, and start my winning streak that's going to lead me to a title. So that being said, good luck this week, guys, and I will see you for the recaps on Tuesday, as always.